Eyewitness testimony is an account of a bystander or a victim tells in a courtroom, describing what they recollect of an event. This was popular before forensic evidence, such as DNA, started being used in court cases. The first time this happened was when fingerprints were used to identify the rapist and killer of two teenagers in 1983. Ever since then, eyewitness testimonies have been proved unreliable. Research at the Innocence Project reported that 73% of the 239 convictions overturned by the use of DNA were based on eyewitness testimony. Over one-third of these cases rested on the testimony of two or more mistaken eyewitnesses. What does this mean? That these cases had many mistakes due to the fault of the eyewitness. That DNA is the only thing that has helped these innocent people from being convicted. But what creates a faulty eyewitness testimony? A lot of the time it isn't the witness lying. It is due to many other factors such as false memories, distance, anxiety, stress, and even more. False memories can happen by a majority of things. One is the misinformation effect. Simply the wording of what someone says to you can alter what you actually remember. For example, if you are looking at a police lineup, the police person has to be very careful with what he or she says. Subtle differences can alter your memory, such as if they were to tell you to look at the people and choose who it was, versus saying the person may or may not be there. If you are told to choose the person, it is probable that you could choose someone when the actual perpetrator may not even be in the room. However, if you are told that they may or may not be there, you may make a more accurate decision. You could also exaggerate the incident, such as if you were in court for a car crash and someone says to you, "What happened?" when the other car crashed into you versus smashed into you. If you hear smashed, you may recollect the accident being a lot worse than it actually was. Another factor that can affect perception is what the person looked like. The person could have not had a distinctive feature that put the person above another average person. This could make it very hard to point out the perpetrator. As well, the person could have worn a wig, glasses, different than normal clothing, mask, etc. This could alter what the witness or victim may have seen. Lighting could also distort what the person saw. Different angles produce different looking features. As well, if it is a dim light, the person may not have seen as well. There are also factors such as distance. Professor and expert on memory and eyewitness testimony Elizabeth F. Loftus found that at 10 feet you might not be able to see an individual's eyelashes on a person's face. At 200 feet, you may not even be able to see a person's eyes. At 500 feet, you could see the person's head, but just one big blur. There is also equivalence between size and blurriness. By making something smaller, you lose the fine details.
Eyewitness testimony isn't just about misperceptions. There's also a cognitive piece to it. When we look at memory from a cognitive perspective, it differs from what we normally think of it as. When memories are put into the brain for storage, they go through a process called encoding. When a memory is encoded, it means that it is made into a construct that is stored into the brain. This means that we recall a specific sight, smell, or feeling associated with the memory that is stored into the brain. This process is done multiple times over for different perceptions we experience. A memory, rather than being stored in the brain individually, is stored in multiple parts of the brain and broken into different perceptions. We may think of memory as a sort of video camera, when in reality it is more like a puzzle, and each piece is an individual perception or stimulus from that memory. The problem with reconstructing memories arises when we consider both the unreliability of storing memories and how human perceptions can be easily altered and manipulated. The initial stress or arousal a person feels while experiencing an event will affect how it is encoded. Although the relationship isn't completely understood, some studies suggest increased arousal causes higher memory recollection, whereas others suggest vice versa. It may be the case that memory recollection relies more on the situation. However, there is a consensus that there is a connection between stress and memory, and it explains one of the many reasons why eyewitness testimony is so unreliable.